Hello everyone, I'm Forrest McFreelove, and this is Speedplay France in Hearts of Iron 4, number 2. We left off about to declare war on Spain. We do realize that our armored units would probably be better put to use not just charging into the Pyrenees, but instead on the edge to hopefully avoid that terrain debuff. With that pretty much just set up, we just have to wait for our war goal to be fully justified. We have an event for that going on, and we go ahead and research some technologies to just improve our fighting capabilities. Also, Poland has created their own faction. It'll really just be up to them to get more countries into it. We go ahead and get our air force ready to just destroy the Spanish wherever possible. Hopefully we have air superiority. I'm not actually sure. We haven't worked on our air force whatsoever. And with the declaration of war, the Spanish actually attack us for a moment. However, with the attacks defeated, we send our armored columns out. We win the first battle, overrun the unit that was on the border, and now it looks as though we're just going to be able to rush through their countryside. You might notice that the video kind of flickered for a moment. The game crashed, but luckily it's Iron Man mode, so it's saved on the day of. Our forces do just kind of plow on through the Spanish state, finding basically minimal, if any, resistance whatsoever. The Germans also declare war on Austria instead of doing the Anschluss, which a few people kind of joked at me for thinking was a possibility when I was Germany, but hey, I guess the AI does it, which is actually a terrible repudiation of it being a good move. Anyway, though, we go ahead to justify a war goal against Portugal, but don't have the political power. We also managed to get one of our units vaguely encircled because there are Spanish units in the interior that we weren't really prepared for. However, we just have all of our advanced units roving about, so it's not like they'll actually be able to win a fight against us. And they are just scattered, and we are already taking over the vast majority of their countryside. You'll notice that their entire army had been encircled up top. We aren't actually working to just reduce and destroy that pocket, since honestly they're just kind of trapped there and don't have any victory points. The rest of our forces are just kind of scattering across their countryside, as is plainly visible. Just to take what victory points we can, maybe destroy whatever Spanish units are just kind of roving about in the interior, kind of lurking just in the shadows monstrously, or just kind of there. We lose the battle for their new capital in the south, but we'll just, reduce the pocket up in the north, destroy whatever units we can, and hopefully bring our forces to better positions to actually win this battle now. And with that all said and done, it's just going to be a matter of hopefully taking that secondary capital, which we are winning the battle thereof. And there we go. Now we go ahead and just start selecting all of their territories. The goal is basically just to annex them. I'm very happy that it turns out you can justify a war for a single province and then annex the state. We go ahead and annex the whole state. It was a bit of a gamble since I didn't actually look up if you could do that, but it did kind of seem in feeling with the game, or in the tone of the game. Either way. We go ahead and put our army on the border of Portugal, since, well, we may as well just finish off the Iberian Peninsula since we're already there. We did raise world tension quite a bit, which may very well be an issue, although perhaps not. It really remains to be seen how that's going to go, and the fact that we increased world tension so much may have actually been a factor in the fact that the Germans declared war on Austria instead of just doing the Anschluss and waiting the 70 days. That's really just me assuming, who really knows. Also, unfortunately, the British guaranteed Portugal, so we go ahead and try to see if we could justify war on maybe any other states. We are having difficulty getting the political power to actually justify wars, so we go ahead and take the national focus. That would be an offensive army or something along those lines, and what it does is remove the penalty to our political power growth. So that will be incredibly helpful to get. Unfortunately, the British have been guaranteeing all of the minor states that we've been justifying against, so we're going to justify against Italy. Now, Italy is an interesting choice. I had previously said that I would want to fight Germany first. That way, worst case, we could use the decision to fight the Italians and use their inevitable help in order for us to defeat the Germans if they proved too much to handle on our own. Now, that's still kind of a good idea. However, it's basically my hope that Germany will do something to get them attacked, and we'll be able to deal with the Italians quickly. Also, if we can deal with the Italians before the Germans, we'll have 2 borders against Germany which they'll protect, and we can hopefully charge up through Alsace-Lorraine over to the Sudetenland and cut off a good portion of the German army in the south like we did with the Spanish on our border with them. Now, we did manage to complete our national focus to really just remove the debuff for our political power growth, so we should be able to justify wars against a decent number of states relatively quickly, or at least more quickly than previously. Now, we do go ahead and get a good portion of our forces on the Italian border. We're going to just kind of hope for the best with that. I believe the British do end up guaranteeing the independence of Switzerland, which really just does undo what we were hoping for. However, what we may be able to do is justify a war against Czechoslovakia. What will then happen is the British, if they manage to stay true with how they've been acting thus far, the British will probably go ahead and guarantee Czechoslovakia. So when Germany goes to demand the Sudetenland and then annex Czechoslovakia, hopefully it will trigger the British guarantee, and the British will fight Germany while we fight Italy, thus more or less freeing our hand, weakening both of our rivals. We go ahead and begin the justification. Unfortunately, the Germans do go ahead and trigger the demand for Sudetenland, which is a little unfortunate. It wasn't fought, and we also didn't fight it because it would have gotten Czechoslovakia in a faction with us. Hungary declares war on Czechoslovakia, though, which, interestingly enough, Hungary is in the Axis. Czechoslovakia joined the Allies. Great Britain joined the war on the side of Czechoslovakia, but Hungary has not called in the German Reich just yet. That, however, really does lend the potential for the Allies getting directly involved against the Axis, including Germany. We go ahead and declare on Italy right there and then, because that's really done it. That's cleared up our hand. They'll all fight. Italy joins the Axis, which is incredibly worrying. However, so far Germany hasn't been called to fight against, okay, well, there we go, never mind. We are, well, basically probably going to fight everybody right now. Hungary called in Germany against Czechoslovakia, so Germany is fighting all of the Allies, and more likely than not, Italy either has or is about to call in Germany to fight us. We need to defeat the Italians as quickly as possible, and our whole plan is based on one major thing. We need to be able to do what we did to the Spanish, and yes, the Germans are very clearly against us right now. Luckily not attacking, though, since we do have our major fort network, and it is manned. Alright, so in North Africa we're doing alright. Over on the actual border, not so much. The Italians are holding off fairly well and even pressing back against us. They've also managed a landing behind our front lines. Almost all of our armored units are in one area that is now dangerously at risk of being pocketed, which would be a very terrible downside. We send most of our cavalry divisions, which were kind of just making up a good portion of our armored units and armored force. We send them back to deal with the landing. It does not appear to be sufficient. We actually have a very, very worryingly small army, and it is becoming incredibly apparent that that's the case as we attempt to fight really anywhere. We do technically have 3 fronts right now, what with the landing, the actual front where the Italians grossly outnumbered us, and yeah, that's basically it. There's also the Alsace-Lorraine front, but that's not really doing anything, although I don't want to pull units from it. We did give military access to the British and other empires, and hopefully they will manage to hold the front for us in case the Germans do decide to attack. That remains to be seen. Not entirely sure how that will go. Our cavalry is running in through the gaps, and we did manage to encircle one Italian unit, or one Axis unit, however it goes. And it looks as though we may be able to encircle more if we just keep driving forward. We cut 1 off from the ports, 2 off from the ports evidently. However, it looks as though we were for a very short moment actually encircled with the majority of our military force, as they have been carving back across the actual border. The situation is a little bit less ideal. However, we do manage to go ahead and break through. We are now fighting in Italian soil with all of our rapid attack units. We are just charging forth. The majority of their army is actually in our territory now. So if we can just drive a wedge up between our breakthrough and the Swiss border, we can cut their entire army off from being resupplied. We're also finally making gains against their landings. Hopefully we'll be able to press them back into the sea. Our forces are carving out. There's only one province separating us from the sea and entirely being encircled, but the Italians appear to be weak in that point. We are charging up to the Swiss border. We are cutting off and encircling more of their forces. Their entire army has just been cut off. We have cut off the northern half of Italy from the south and are driving through and over to Venice. Our forces are attacking everywhere that they possibly can. Anywhere that we can be winning a battle, we are fighting a battle. And it looks as though, despite the northern Italian city down there actually holding out, we encircled that as well. We are pressing up. Their whole army has been encircled. They outnumbered our army considerably. They outfought our army considerably, but not in the one place it mattered. Not when it came to encircling their force and occupying their countryside. We are now driving up against them. They're doing considerably, noticeably worse now as their supplies start to run out and dwindle. And we are cutting off and reducing their encircled units. We are also just driving our forces forward where available. The Germans are not taking the initiative. They're not attacking. They're not doing really anything at all of note. Our forces are just gunning through. We aren't really winning the battle in the actual Italian peninsula. Everywhere else, though, it is just the overwhelming sign of coming victory. We have units just pouring through, reducing drastically the size of the encircled territories, pressing in and reoccupying our own southern French lands. It looks as though we are not very far at all away from defeating the Italian army and then hopefully pressing through and making the Italian state capitulate. In the battle of fascists, we have proven that French fascism is a more resilient breed than that of the Spanish, and now evidently that of the Italians. Our forces are now fighting just 2 or 3 pocketed elements. One of our units did get encircled, however, I do have faith in our ability to fight and free that unit as we pull more and more of our forces, and in just one moment we will hopefully completely destroy that encircled element. We're going to go ahead and reduce the length of the front line over near the German border, but not actually press to the German border just yet, hopefully making them not worry about it and send forces. There we go. All of the Italian armies have been completely captured. We are definitely winning this war. We're going to send our forces to the Italian peninsula and hopefully force them to capitulate in the very near future. That is, however, a bit of the journey for next time. Thank you very much for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe. Have a great day.